Thank you. I welcome everybody to the Town of Lake Clark Shores Virtual Town Council meeting, August 11th, 2020. Mary, can we have a call to order and roll call?
Mayor Valtine Rodriguez,
Here.
Vice Mayor Paul Shalhoub,
Present.
President Pro Tem Robert Shalhoub,
Can you hear Bob?
I hear nobody.
Hold on.
Bob is unmuted.
Sometimes I think I'm like Sergeant Schultz.
Councilmember Gregory Freebold,
Here.
Councilmember Albert Pavone.
Here.
Thank you.
And Bernadette can't hear you either.
Dan, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, great. Well, we're going to go into a moment of silence. I think we need to have a moment of silence for two things. One, there was an explosion in Beirut. 7,000 people were injured and over 220 people died. And as of today, 166,000 people in the United States have also died from COVID. Pastor Stan, would you mind doing an invocation for us?
Absolutely. And let us look to the Lord. My son, if you accept my words and store up my commands within you, turning your ear to wisdom and applying your heart to understanding. Indeed, if you call out for insight, cry aloud for understanding, and look for it as for silver and search for it as a hidden treasure, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom, and from his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. Let us pray. Father, indeed, we seek your wisdom and we pray for your guidance in all our ways. Come before you in thy precious and holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father. We'll pledge allegiance to the flag, which is right over here.
Very good.
Can't stand up, but pledge allegiance
To the flag
Flag.
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
Stands.
one nation,
Nation.
under God,
God.
indivisible,
Indivisible.
with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Mayor, I have no audio whatsoever.
Just a technical difficulty, and then we'll start. Can you hear us now?
Bob, can you hear us?
Hello? Hello?
We can
We
hear
can
you.
hear you. Can you hear us?
No.
Hello, Bob, can you hear?
I hear you out of this machine over here on the left. I don't hear you out of my earphones.
Oh, I see.
Testing, 1, 2, testing.
Okay, got you, Dan. Thank you.
All right.
Can you make
Okay.
it colder in here, please? Thank you.
So just a reminder to everybody out there, this is a virtual meeting. We have 4 town council members present in this room. We're all separated by more than 10 feet. And we have Albert Pavone in his office. Could I have an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
The consent agenda,
So moved.
I have a second.
I'd like to, it hasn't been seconded? I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, second for discussion by Vice Mayor Paul Shalhoub. Go ahead.
With regard to the, we'll call it the, what's the title of this here? Collective bargaining agreement between the Town of Lake Clark Shores and the Palm Beach County Police Benevolent Association. That's the only issue I want to discuss on the consent agenda.
You want
So,
to take it off the consent agenda, just discuss it during regular time?
yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so I'm taking that as an amendment to the consent agenda for everything A through, we'll remove G and put it under new business.
So approved.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. We're going to now move on to our presentations, and we have the infamous Richard Pensky somewhere there. He's going to pipe in a moment.
Okay, can you see and hear?
Yes, we see you.
I can hear him. I can't see him.
Okay, Bob, you have to click that little top button. She'll show you how. And that'll move your screen thing to the side.
I see him.
Okay.
I'll reserve comment, Bob. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It really is good to see everyone. I mean it when I say I really miss all of you and seeing you. I am a little surprised that everyone showed up. I feel like I should have shown up in person. So I wanted to every month I think, okay, this is the month that everything is going to be okay. We're leveling off, and then we escalate, and so finally, your town manager Dan Clark and I decided we can't expect something going to be good next month. So let's get this on the agenda to discuss not just the post-mortem, the veto and what happened this past session, but where do we go from here? And so that's what this presentation is, basically to give you an overview of snapshot of sort of where we are. It'll be some historic perspective, and then some ideas that I did want to share with you. We don't necessarily looking for a decision tonight or an action item, but for discussion, and then maybe that direction will cause me to come back with something more specific. So first of all, we're looking that we know that the legislative delegation in Tallahassee from Palm Beach County is going to be changing. So I've highlighted in bold our senator and our state representative, Senator Berman and Representative Silvers. Kevin Rader, as you all know, has decided not to seek a second term. Senators have 4-year terms. So he is leaving, and that, of course, starts the dominoes. So Representative Polsky is vacating her House seat. So we'll have a new House member for her House seat, and she's seeking the Senate seat. I don't know what will happen there. That's a primary for next week. The reason I put Al Jaquette in red, that his race is more of a contested race. There may be a couple others that are up, like Gail Harrell, but really that's not a seat that's still in question. Mary Lynn Magar, our Speaker Pro Tem, is leaving, so that's a contested primary, the Republican primary up in Stewart. And then Mike Caruso, even though it's not a primary, he is going to be facing a tough general election again. As you know, he only won by 37 votes last time over Bonfiglio, and so Mr. Bonfiglio is challenging in the general election Mike again. So we know that the delegation is going to change, which may or may not have some impact upon committee assignments. We are fortunate that I think David Silvers is going to be sophomore year is going to be more in leadership in the Democratic Party, so that should be beneficial. Okay, next slide. Am I controlling it or somebody? Okay, good. So the dates to be made aware of, session is already 2021 session. The canary in the tunnel is the claims bill deadline. We don't have any claims bills, but August 1st, all the claims bills had to be filed by senators. So that really signaled to wake up and, oh my God, the session's going to be upon us before we know it. Of course, next week is the primary, general election on November 3rd, and then giving the 7 days after the election to certify. So usually around the third week in November, we have the organizational session. That's where the speaker, incoming speaker Sprouls is sworn in, incoming Senate President Wilton Simpson. They begin announcing their committee chairs and committee assignments, and basically the new members get sworn in, and that constitutes the biannual organizational session of the Florida legislature. That also kicks off. It's too early to know yet whether we're going to have a December committee meeting. I would imagine the COVID impacts will have something to do with that, but certainly maybe December, but certainly January through March is when the committee weeks begin. Bills begin getting filed in earnest, and some bills get to be heard. I would imagine this is going to be kicked off with a lot of reports on economic forecasting. I sent an announcement that the governor made yesterday to town manager Dan Clark today, that the governor has directed all of his agencies to anticipate severe budget cuts in the upcoming session, and that does not bode well for member projects once again, but we'll touch that again here shortly. March 2nd, session begins. As a reminder, usually Palm Beach County Day, don't know if they're going to have one this year, but that's usually falls on March 2nd and 3rd as well. And then, hallelujah, April 30th is the last day of session. A little early this year, but thankfully that will be over. Okay, next slide. So the issues that we know are going to be overarching the session, we know already COVID-19. There's a Medicaid shortfall. We have something like 4.1 million enrollees anticipated. That's almost 30% more of Medicaid recipients this year, next year than this year. We know unemployment is going to be have a major impact. Reserves are going to be retouched. As I just said, we know that the agencies are going to be making cuts. Typical home rule versus preemption. Will be interested to see what new ways that local government can be put to the back burner in COVID-related issues. Again, appropriations have no idea what's going to be the fate of member projects. There was $1 billion in vetoes, and as you know, our water project for the town of Lake Clark Shores was vetoed, unfortunately, and a lot of work went into that. But that is just a harbinger of things to come. So I really don't know how the legislature is going to deal with member projects, but I can't imagine it's going to be a rosy picture. We do know because of the vetoes, we do know that the water infrastructure and septic issues have not gone away. They've not gotten better. And of course, now this session, even though it won't be final, but redistricting begins. So the legislature is charged with the constitutional responsibility of drawing new lines for congressional members. Florida, up until the COVID pandemic, anticipated picking up at least one new seat. That may be in question depending on how the census turns out. But they're also responsible for redrawing state senate, state legislature, and of course, counties and local governments deal with their own. So that begins the process, but it's the 2022 session that everything has to be final. So most of the work is done, legal challenges begin, and then, but who the chairs are of that redistricting and how members interact with one another has a cross-pressure impact on the legislature. And then, of course, don't know, they're predicting a very active hurricane season. And we know from not this past session before, Hurricane Michael, we know that sometimes that diverts large chunks of money should there be a devastation, Cat 4 into a metropolitan area, and that would be another issue that would impact the budget. So it's not a great promise of infrastructure and funding and whatnot, but it is the reality that we're living with. Next slide, please. So what's going to be, where do we go? What's going to be the Lake Clark Shores agenda? The annexation issue, we can approach it in a couple of different ways, which we'll talk about shortly. We still have septic to sewer, and there's a new issue that I'm very encouraged about, and that is the portage area and small boat lift at the C-51 flood control structure. Next slide, please. So when it comes to annexation, I see we have three options. One is, and we certainly have Representative Silver's support, and we would probably do things a little differently by having the Senate bill introduced this time and not just rely on the House bill. But we could repeat and do a local bill once again. Don't know who the chair of the committee will be. Could very well be the same chair. We do know, and Manager Dan Clark will be happy to hear this, that it will be the same staff director. And that enjoyed debating Dan so much. We can also do it the way that we amended after the local bill. The legislature, Chairs Plakin decided not to hear any Palm Beach County local bill at all. We did try to approach an amendment to a general bill by making creating a new definition of a quasi area that would be wholly contained within. So right now you have to have all four sides of the donut surrounding the area you're going to annex. We have three sides. So we tried to amend it to say, here's when you can use three sides. But amending the definition of enclave was kind of late in the session to try that, but we tried. Or we can explore the Palm Beach County options. I did briefly, I spent about a half hour driving up and down Florida Mango, and I did speak with the land use attorneys in my firm about, would just the easement, what's the minimum? But the point being, we could begin to open the dialogue with the county manager, Virginia Baker, to say, what if we did take a strip of land up to the right-of-way or include the right-of-way on Florida Mango, on the east side of Florida Mango, to close the enclave? Then we would not have to go to the legislature, and we would simply be following the process that is already proscribed in statute, and that would be basically us dealing with Palm Beach County. So I leave that, again, not an action item for today, but certainly something to think about. When we started last session for the local bill, that process seemed very long and uncertain. So obviously easier to go through the legislature. That did not prove efficient for us. So before we go back and either do the same thing or create a general bill, create a definition of what we are, or change the enclave definition to include us a few different ways, or talk to the county. Next slide. And on the septic to sewer funding, we could repeat the member project request, and we certainly will do that. We have going for us the fact that the legislature already approved it once. But again, knowing that the budget outlook is bleak at best, I am not going to, I wouldn't feel comfortable recommending that we put all our eggs in that basket. I did spend some time in talking to DEP and trying to broach different ways that we could handle this. And I sent this to your manager, Dan Clark, a few weeks back, that there are some programs that could be accessed within DEP. And that is, one is the Division of Water Restoration Assistance. I'm not going to spend the time to read all this, but you can look at it. Basically, it's a program to provide loans and grants. I know that a loan is not necessarily what we were looking at, but it's easier to discuss what the cost of the loan is after it happens. There are some loans that end up being forgivable, that the legislature has the prerogative to do. So even though we may start off that way, we never know how we'll end up. But they are low interest loans to local governments, and usually a 20-year amortization. Next slide, please. And Senate Bill 712, which is the new paradigm. I won't spend a lot of time discussing it, but this is the bill that every local government, every private entity, everybody who discharges stormwater or any other kind of outfall into a water body from now on is going to have to meet a certain stringent level of clean water. So the bill, you're gonna be hearing more about that, and it's going to impact Lake Clark Shores because of the water bodies that we do have our stormwater run into. However, in the bill, there was a section that the intent was to do away with member projects, and Noah Valenstein, the Secretary of DEP, wants all water projects like what we got funded to go through DEP. Let DEP be the judge and jury of which one is the most critical. We would fall into that category, that A category, because we directly have water bodies around us. And whereas an inland community that may not have direct outfall into a water body like we do would maybe be in the B category. So, however, the legislature chose to go the member project route, put all the money into member projects rather than funding that portion of the bill. So that didn't happen. However, there was in there enough for $25 million line item that we could access. That could be for engineering, design, and some smaller expenditures. And then, of course, there's the new non-point source fund, which is available. Usually, it's only $8 or $9 million. It's not a big fund, but again, because of our proximity to the water bodies that surround us, and we would be a community that certainly would want to make sure that all the sources and a septic tank is considered a non-point source of pollution. Okay, next slide. Now the C51. So just recently, and it took a while. I think I think I'm the only person that had to go out and get actual approval from the South Florida Water Management District for the C51 control structure boat lift, that we had to get permission from the Water Management District to call the approach the Blue Way Trail. So and as well as Palm Beach County. So and Dan and Town Manager Dan Clark was a very big help in getting the letter from Deb Drum, Eric Hall. We had to go through the county commission. We got a letter saying we can use Lake Ida, we can use any Palm Beach County land to support the Blue Way Trail, and we had to do the same thing with the South Florida Water Management District. So with those two letters in hand, finally, and that we had a 2-month delay just because of COVID and nobody working, but just this past week, we have submitted the application, the support letters, the ownership of the waterway and the land, and so the package was complete. And Dan Clark has a copy of it all, and for an official trail designation. I anticipate, the next few weeks or month or whatever, getting that designation. Once that happens, we are an official state designated paddling trail. And as you recall, that was the plan, was to get that designation rather than be just a rogue one-off project saying, oh, we want a boat lift. Now the boat lift becomes part of the Blue Way Trail initiative. And so going to the legislature now, and I know I said, that's not a great option. However, there are money set aside just for parks and trails. Now that may get cut, but certainly that option to have a separate ask directly to DEP, we don't even have to go to the legislature necessarily, but now those funding sources now open up. And I know in the past, we've had Representative Silvers and others say, what can we ask for? As you recall, 2 sessions ago, we did get a $270,000 appropriation. So the legislature is already on the record for investing money into the boat lift. And now we have an opportunity now to be an official trail that as a only one, I think, in the whole state. While there are boat lifts, the state does not have for any of its flood control structures a boat lift and portage areas. So I was thinking that would be a great demonstration project. And so there's also the possibility of bond financing, because there would be a revenue stream of payment. That wouldn't be a lot, but there is that possibility. Not on the slide, but my suggestion is we think about officially, once we get that designation, Lake Clark Shores, maybe Palm Beach County together, approaching the town of Lake Worth Beach, city of Lake Worth Beach, and discussing how we either lease or take over that land that's adjacent to the flood control structure just for this. It's gone on too long. Again, we didn't really have any portfolio, but now once we get this designated, it is a state recognized trail. I talked by email today with Eric Hall, and I think it's something that now we can move from the back burner to the front burner. Next slide, please. Oh, questions, comments, feedback. Go to the next slide, please. All right, so I didn't know if I was going to be in person or not. So I thought what I would do is show you my shining face. But since it's video, there was no need for this, but I wanted to understand why I put this slide in there, just in case. Okay, next slide, or you can, there you go. Okay, happy to answer any questions.
Well, Richard, thank you so much. I'm going to open it up to questions by any council member. I see a hand from Vice Mayor Paul Shahoo.
Good evening, Richard. Thank you very much for your presentation and your continued hard work for our town. Much appreciated. Some good things that you said. I thought a lot of them. One question I had, or a couple, deal with the county. So when you're talking about dealing with the county on the annexation, are you saying we somehow discuss and negotiate to take over the eastern part of the Florida Mango Road, so that we either buy it from them, or would it be purchased or something like that? What would that be?
Yeah, all those options. We provide, because we are good Americans. We provide services to residents that should be for services that the county really, it's their responsibility. So I would be advising that in exchange for the goodwill that we've been doing on our own nickel, helping the county out, the county least they could do is dedicate whatever lands we need to us, and there would be no need for us to purchase. They should be giving us money.
I'm with you. All right, and then the septic to sewers, the loan you mentioned, how often are those loans forgiven?
More often than not, you would be surprised that the climate, and again, this would be, let's say 2 years from now, the climate of what is happening with sewer conversion, the priority of this governor, the priority of the legislature, but Senate Bill 712 made it very clear. The Senate President Wilton Simpson coming in, they want to get rid of septic tanks in metropolitan area. Rural areas is a different story, but along the coast, they want to get rid of septic tanks, and DEP is a big champion. So when a community wants to step up and get it done, I would be making the case down the road that the loan be forgivable. Most of those loans at their maturity, whether it's 10 years from now, whenever it may be, it is easy. When I say easier, because it's found money anyway. So they're more often forgiven than not.
Thank you. Those are all the questions I had. It was a great presentation. Thank you again, Richard.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Shalhoub. Any other council member have questions? Bob Shalhoub.
Richard, so good to see you. Thank you very much for your presentation. I was really looking forward to it. I would have preferred to have had this document in advance, but I understand the logistics involved. By getting the designation of the Blue Way Trail, what does that mean? Try and explain it to the importance to our neighbors that are listening to this virtual meeting. Explain why we worked so hard to get that designation and what it means to us. Sure.
And the issue of getting the boat, as you recall, Councilman Shalhoub, the initial thought was, let's just do the boat lift, and that was a challenge in that it was, who's doing a boat lift, and without going into a lot of the history, I know you attended some of those meetings, and as well as some of your fellow council people at different times attended some of those meetings, that the collective think at that time was, if we had something more substantial as the reason for the boat lift, and that's really how the concept of a paddling trail came about, that the boat lift would be part of a greater initiative. And then since that time, the state of Florida designated the Intercoastal Waterway as basically the Florida Circumnavigational Trail, which opened up the opportunity for us to have our paddling trail connect to that. Well, if you're the Blue Way Trail, that basically goes through the chain of lakes as a tourist and an ecotourism opportunity from Lake Ida and Delray to the C-51 flood control structure, think what it would be if you could actually connect that trail to the Florida Circumnavigational Trail. Not only are you opening up another new ecotourism opportunity in Palm Beach County, and with the next step will be signage, stops along the way, stopping at Flanagan's if you're tired to paddle and you want to have a little libation perhaps. But those are all the features of the trail. Well, now we get to say we want to connect to that intercoastal. We want saltwater, freshwater fishing to be two different features, and certainly being able to pick up a canoe or a paddleboard and just go around that flood control structure as part of a paddling trail makes it a very attractive feature. the fact that the South Florida Water Management District, eyes wide open, had to give us permission to use their waterway was put a smile on my face that we are soon to go back to them to say, oh, and now we need to, that trail that you love so much, we need to get around your flood control structure. So it ties everything together as a bigger initiative for Palm Beach County than just, hey, Lake Clark Shores would like to have a boat.
Isn't it more a sellable point when we go to the legislature to seek additional funds? Because they originally funded the design, but now we want to go back to them for additional dollars. Does it make it more appealable?
Absolutely,
That was the
absolutely,
key.
no doubt.
Thank you very much, Richard. I appreciate everything, my friend.
I just want to say good evening, Richard. Oh, Dan, you want to put me on there?
Yeah, we're getting it.
Okay.
You're self-muted.
Oh, am I? Where is the line? I got you. Can you hear me now, Richard? I just want to say good evening, Paul. The Vice Mayor actually covered my question, but I did want to say good evening. I'm with you. I look forward to the time when we can get together and work again on all these issues. Thank you for all of your efforts.
Likewise.
All right, Richard, thank you so much for the presentation. You know, we started the Blue Way Trail in July of 2013. I remember you going to the first meetings. I was mayor back then. And you've held in with us, and I appreciate that. And your hard work in Tallahassee. The fact that the money got vetoed has no reflection on you, obviously. It's a sad state of affairs, and so is COVID and all this stuff. So we just appreciate, on behalf of the town, all your hard work. I look forward to seeing you on the tennis court again. That was
I
funny.
thought you were going to say, boy, you haven't aged at all since 2013. You look the same.
I could sort of say that. I lost all my hair. Well, thank you again, Richard. Any other questions before we let him go? Nope. Nope. Okay. Thank you.
So we're not going to Morton's?
Unfortunately not, but we can think about it.
Is there any audience
All right.
comments?
Thank you all very much, and I will circle back with your manager, Dan Clark, and talk about some ideas of where we go from here.
Thank you, Richard.
I appreciate it, Richard. Thanks. Okay, so we have no quasi-judicial proceedings, no public hearing, and we do have unfinished business that Vice Mayor Shahub is going to discuss on the FDFC donation discussion. And also, maybe under this unfinished business, we can discuss after that the PBA contract. So go ahead, Vice Mayor Shahub.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. All right, so as y'all may recall, Dan received an award. Dan, what was it, $4,500?
$4,500 from Florida Development Finance Corporation.
Right, and at the last meeting, I made a motion that we earmark that to be put into our fund that's been set aside for cleaning up the lake or beautification of the lake and or security cameras. And currently that fund, or that set aside money, is being funded solely by the liens that we obtained, or the foreclosures, or the fines that are obtained through the Code Enforcement Board and the related violations and such. So the reason that I made that motion to make that happen however many years ago is because we just don't have enough money to pay for the large costs associated with cleaning up the lake and or the camera system. So I wanted to see if we can earmark that money to go into that fund. I recently spoke with Dan, and he advised that he has a recommendation for that money and what he'd like to see done with it, and then what we can do with the balance of that. So Dan, can you explain that to everybody?
So with the COVID issues and social distancing and wearing of masks in the office workspace, we put up some plexiglass walls. As you've probably seen in a variety of different places, that seems to be what everybody wants to do. Well, putting up those plexiglass walls in our instance has changed the air balance within the building, and we're not getting circulation in a lot of areas like we would normally see. So my request of council is that they allow me to have $2,000 out of the $4,500 to buy some office fans that include a UV light to address virus issues and a HEPA filter to address particulate, and try and keep those individual workspaces, the air moving and folks safe.
And then Dan, the balance of that, you don't have any issue as a town manager that going into the fund that's earmarked for beautification of the lake and the canals and or the security cameras?
No issues.
So that being said, I'd like to amend my motion that the funds be earmarked $2,000 to go to the project for the fans for the employees, as stated by Dan, and then the balance go into the fund earmarked for the beautification of the lake and the security cameras for Lake Clark.
I just have a question for our town attorney. Do we need to amend it, or is it going to be a new motion? Because I don't know what motion we're amending.
You can withdraw it.
There was a motion at the last meeting, but it was not acted on.
Okay,
was
so maybe this
tabled.
should be a considered.
It was
a new
tabled, so
motion.
I'm moving to amend that motion, which needs to be seconded. We vote on the amendment, and then we can vote on the amended motion.
Actually, the meeting ended with no action taken on that motion. So you only need to do a new motion this evening.
All right, nice. I make a new motion. New motion is that we, for the $4,500, $2,000 goes towards the project Dan discussed with regard to buying the fans for the town employees to maintain their working space in a safe manner or safer manner, and that the balance of that money then goes into the fund earmark for the lake beautification.
Do we have a second on that?
I'll second it for discussion's sake.
Okay, we have a second for discussion by Councilmember Freebold. What would you like to say, Mr. Freebold?
Dan, in the
Yes.
beautification of the lake, would those dollars include the boat ramp?
I think that's up for you guys to decide. What we've traditionally, I believe council's original intent in discussing this was more lake cleanup activities, sediment removal and vegetation removal, but you can decide to do whatever you want to do within limits.
Within the limits of $2,500.
Well, that's going to be added to the larger pot
I understand.
that we have growing.
The vegetation cleanup's a huge battle, but I'm good to go. I second the motion.
I like
Call the
that.
question.
I've got a question.
You second that emotion?
Yes.
That was a joke. You second that motion? You know that song.
Yes, we missed the music trivia.
Okay, we have a second.
Question.
There's a question by Councilmember.
Dan, respectfully, has there been any type of study or recommendation with regard to better ventilation rather than just buy fans? And what I mean is, did we put up too big of plexiglass for separation than needed?
I don't know of any engineering calculations that would say how big of a separation we need. So I can't really answer that question. I mean, we felt at the time that we did it that the most important thing was if somebody's sneezing at their desk, to contain that within their work area. So
I
that was
understand
my
completely.
guiding light.
I'm not critical of what you did or why you did it. I'm just thinking, did we overdo it?
I can't tell you that. I don't know. There's no standard against which I could assess that.
Okay. Any other questions? So we have a seconded motion made by Vice Mayor Paul Shahu.
A clarification, is that motion that you made, Vice Mayor, is it not to exceed $2,000?
Well, yeah, he asked for 2,000, so it was 2,000. Based on my discussions with him, that should be well within what's needed.
Okay, so clarification, the motion is up to $2,000.
It's $2,000 for his project, $2,500 goes into the fund.
And this is out of the $4,500 that's come from Florida Development Finance Corporation. Okay, we have a second. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Let's continue, Vice Mayor Shaw.
You're welcome.
With the issue regarding the PBA contract. You had it taken off of our consent agenda, and how would you like to discuss?
Thank you. Charlie, I'm gonna definitely need your input here. But, so, in looking at this, especially in the context of with some of the issues that have happened, not with our police department, but across the country, the way I read this agreement is basically if one of the town's officers does something wrong, egregious or otherwise, and the police chief and or our town manager deem it fireable, that police officer can get fired, and then they can follow a grievance process that's laid out on later on in this page 17. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is accurate, but realize that in any instance where there would be disciplinary action, we would have to follow the terms of the collective bargaining agreement regarding that disciplinary action.
And is that collective bargaining agreement the one I'm holding in my hand?
Yes.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Any other employee, if for whatever reason they're deemed not to no longer serve the benefit of the town, they can get let go. And then do they have a grievance process to follow?
They're not a member of the union.
They're
Well,
not
I
a member of
understand
the
that, but
collective.
that's not what I'm saying. That's not my question. You understand?
Generally speaking, no, because they are at-will employees. But the law enforcement officials and officers are part of the collective bargaining agreement, and therefore their disciplinary action must be in compliance with the agreement.
If the agreement doesn't allow for a grievance to be filed for being terminated, then there would be no grievance to happen. And that
Correct.
for all the other inter-organizational issues, reprimands, demotions, cut hours, salary, whatever have you, those could be a part of a grievance, but termination, that specific action can be removed from this contract, right? We don't have to agree to it.
Well, it's a negotiated contract, so you could suggest that it be removed, but it's an agreement that is negotiated, and in these types of agreements, there's always give and take. Neither party gets everything they want. They end up having to compromise to have a workable agreement.
It's my opinion that the PBA would never accept that.
Yeah, I don't believe they would.
Right, and I think that's a general problem on a larger scale. But, you know, we're a town that's fortunate to have a great police force. We have a great chief. We got great officers. Some of them make mistakes. Some of them don't. Some mistakes are bigger than others, and not everybody always lasts. But to me, it's hard for me to sit here and say, okay, let's just rubber stamp the agreement when an officer can do something that's wrong in the eyes of his superiors, in the eyes of our management. They get terminated. They file a grievance process that then leads to an arbitration, and they get put back on the force, a force that doesn't want them, because we, as a town council, agreed to an agreement that allowed for that to happen.
Well, they don't necessarily get put back on the force. We've had terminations in the past where grievances were filed and the officer was not put back on the payroll.
So, Paul, is what you're saying that you just don't like the concept of having this collective bargaining agreement for purposes of termination?
What the issue is for me on a whole is that there should be more consideration and deference given to leadership who's controlling who's supervising, who's maintaining, who's there on the daily with these officers. And if one of them is deemed no longer to be fitting of the position to best serve the town, that decision should be final, just like any other job.
Right. Unfortunately, I believe that the whole purpose of the PBA's CBA is to give the officers that right.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's part of it, amongst other
I think
things.
that's a big part.
Well, then look at page 19. So let's say the officer gets terminated, and then you're 3 months down the road, 4 months down the road, arbitration comes back, the officer gets put back on. Paragraph 12 says they get made whole. So they get paid by the town for all that missed time, despite whatever their actions were being wrong that led to the termination. They get rewarded afterwards. For an attorney, there's no cost to them. The attorney's paid for by the association. I think that on a general concept is flawed. Nobody else has an issue with that?
Well, I think this means we have to go back and think about the entire bargaining process and how our town got involved in it, which my understanding is town council is not directly involved in it. Is that correct?
No, we have no involvement in it. But we set the policy that they follow. And it's just, to me, it deploys resources from the town in the event there's a conflict. When I say a conflict, meaning the officer just disagrees with the decision. And for everything aside from termination, I really don't have a problem with it. I get it. It lays out a process for them to follow. But if it's a termination issue, I think I have a lot of faith in our chief. I have a lot of faith in our town manager. They make those decisions not lightly. They take them seriously. They weigh a lot of options. And then for that decision to be potentially reversed, and then if reversed, the officer gets paid back in full for all the past time, and then including overtime, which I don't even know how you calculate lost overtime. I mean, I don't know why that part's in there. How on earth could you calculate overtime and say it's guaranteed? In the contract, we're being asked to approve. I don't understand that part.
I have a question for Charlie. What would be the legal effect to not approve of this collective bargaining agreement tonight?
Well, we'll have to go back to the table with the police union, and I don't see them caving on these issues. These are very standard conditions in collective bargaining agreements with law enforcement officials.
So what happens if they don't cave in?
You have no agreement.
Yeah.
We have to operate.
And what's
So
the
here's
downfall of that if you have no agreement?
But I think there's a, go ahead.
Here's the understanding that I have. We've been negotiating this agreement for 11 months. The old agreement expired last October. We have been told by our labor attorney that it is still binding until another replaces it.
Correct.
So if you don't approve this tonight, we still operate under the old agreement, which has all of these clauses in it. And it's certainly something that if you want to defer it till next meeting and allow Paul and anyone else an opportunity to meet with our labor attorney and understand why we don't believe these clauses can be changed, I certainly think that that is something that we should be doing.
And I think there's a slight problem with your premise, Paul. Just because a law enforcement officer who is disciplined files a grievance does not mean they're going to be reinstated. They only are reinstated if there is some problem with the disciplinary action or some problem with the termination. And our history has been that they're not reinstated when they are removed.
And you know, that's
And this has never created a problem for the town in the past.
and that's a good point. And I was looking at the and there's no particular bullet points that have to be check marked off for the decision on the discipline. From based on page 13 and 14, is that right? I mean, I guess I see what you're saying, and I guess it was, to me, the vagueness of paragraph 13, maybe that works in our favor, maybe it doesn't. But there's no like, this is if you do this infraction, this is rises to the level of A. This infraction rises to the level of B, and then if you get to, I don't know, Z, it's fireable. You know, there's nothing like that. So I didn't really even understand how something like that can be grievable or go to an arbitrator or what the.
I wish that we could put that specificity in this agreement, because then we wouldn't need an arbitrator, but that's never going to happen.
And also understand that in addition to this agreement, we're bound by the Policeman's Bill of Rights, which is state law.
My understanding also, Paul, is that if they lose the grievance through arbitration, we are entitled to our attorney's fees as well. And that the union doesn't have to take on every grievance and move it to arbitration. The union itself can decide not to follow through.
Right.
That gives them that's why it says may. I've actually dealt with representing several police officers and other police departments with the same agreement. But the other issue becomes, if it's not a strong issue that they can win on, that officer or the union may not agree to go to arbitration, because I believe the union would then be responsible for the arbitrator's fees and the fees of the prevailing party.
Okay. I've never been a part of these contracts before, these negotiations before this happened, before I came on board, at least based on what I can recall. So that's why I'm asking all these questions, and I don't have any experience in it. So I don't even have a bill of rights for the policeman member. So.
That's okay. Do you want to make a motion to just table it until the next meeting?
Well, no, do you have any issues with it?
Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't these provisions in the current agreement now that we're operating under?
They
That's what I
are.
understand it to be.
So
They're
these
pretty
are not
much
a
standard
change.
across the nation.
Yes, they are.
Well,
But that doesn't mean we can't question them.
right, nor does it mean
Absolutely.
we can't make a change. And look, like I said before, we got a great police department here. We don't have the issues that are causing civil unrest across the country. But I just want to, I'm fine with, actually, I would like to table it, because I would like to talk to our labor attorney and discuss some of these things. Because if we're if there are other options and other ways to approach it that make a little bit more sense and better serve the town, I'd like to discuss that with them.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to table agenda item G, which is the approval of the police department's collective bargaining agreement with PBA.
It-
Was seconded, yes.
It's my understanding that we're tabling it to the next meeting,
Yes.
not indefinitely.
No, you just in the next meeting.
Okay.
No, I want to be able to share, as a town council, we need to know what we're doing here by the next meeting.
All those in favor of that motion to table, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it passes. Our new business would be approval to appoint the following as members of the Auditor Selection Committee: Linda Strump, Greg Dunham, and Mayor Valentin Rodriguez. And Dan Clark, could you just share with us the history of why we have to make this appointment?
So Nolan Holton Minor, in all honesty, decided they could make more money as our financial advisor than they could as our auditor. And so they've asked to make that change. In the legislative session in 2019, there was a new procedure put in place for selecting the auditor. None of staff can participate in that process. It is chaired by, committee is chaired by the mayor. I have served with other cities on their selection committee, and those city managers have agreed to help us out and do the same for us. So Linda Strump is the city manager for Manalapan, and Greg Dunham is the city manager for Gulfstream. And they have agreed to help us with the mayor in this selection process. There will be 2 meetings. One of them will be to decide on the selection criteria and the request for proposal. And then the second meeting will be after the proposals are received and have been evaluated. There'll be a final meeting to make a recommendation that comes before council on who the auditor should be. And then council will ultimately approve that agreement with the auditor.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Paul Shahub. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Now we're into audience comments, and Dan Clark, I'll need your help or whoever can help us as to who is available to ask questions.
So we have 2 hands raised. One is Brenda Hockman. So we can start with Brenda if she's, it says she's self-muted. So Brenda, if you would unmute yourself and ask your question of council.
My hand was raised in error. My apologies.
Oh,
Okay.
no problem, Brenda. Thank you.
The second hand is William Steele.
It's William Steele, 7410 Westlake Drive. Just really a question. What exactly were the auditor committee audit? I mean, what is the purpose of that formation?
That committee is selecting an auditor for the town's annual financial audit.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you.
Thank you for piping in. Any other questions? No other audience questions, Dan?
Yes, we have Nicole Kirchhoff.
Hi, I apologize if you hear a baby in the background. It's bedtime. But I left a comment in the comment box. I am a resident at 2054 Palmetto Road, so I'm a utilities customer and I live on the lake, but I'm not part of the town. And I wanted to just make a comment that septic to sewer is extremely important to me. And I am on the board of a group called the American Water Security Project, who is very important in education and advocacy for sewage and wastewater infrastructure upgrades and repairs. And they were also very integral to the new wastewater responsibility law and all of the funding to help pay for it. Not just state, but NGO. And I wanted to just say that it would be nice if we could come, or if I could have our lobbyists come and have a presentation at the next meeting about how we can strategically set ourselves out to reinstate that funding, and about a bunch of different ways that we can get extra funding for our upgrades.
I think, well, thank you so much for calling in. I think we could connect you to Dan Clark, and he could connect you to Mr. Pinsky.
I think she would like to make or have her employees make a presentation at the next meeting on financing. Would that be acceptable to council?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's no problem. Seems to be a consensus here. Mr. Freebold, is that okay?
Absolutely.
Mr. Pavone?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for calling in. We appreciate that. We appreciate your input. Anyone else?
We have one more verbal question and then one written question. So we'll start with Robert Gonzalez.
Hey, good evening, gentlemen. Just wanted to quickly say thank you so much for keeping us all together and doing these teleconferences and all of the hard work that Albert has been doing as our new commissioner. I think he's been doing a great job. So thank you so much. I actually just wanted to ask about the power upgrade or the telephone pole project along Pine Tree Lane. When do we expect that to be completed?
Okay, good question, Robert. Robert, what's your address?
1420 South Lake Court. I apologize.
That's okay. Dan Clark, can you help us answer that one?
So in standing around watching the polls going in recently, I asked the gentleman what they were doing, and they said they were replacing any pole that had a number on it. It seems as though those numbered poles stopped before you get to Keller by a couple of blocks. So I don't really have an answer to that question. I'll get back with FP&L and see if they can provide some clarity. Right now, it looks like they've done all of the concrete poles that they're going to do, at least for this hardening. But I'll check that and I'll get back with some specific information.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Have
you,
a great
Robert.
night, folks.
Stay safe. So we have another written question.
Just one, what's the status for the lot at 6900 Westlake Drive? And Mr. Mayor, if you'd like me to jump into
Please.
that.
Yes, please do.
So we need to step back and go through a county-wide process for any potential comp plan change or any rezoning change where we just let our neighbors know that we're considering this action. So we have hired Doty Glass with Gentile Glass, Holloway and O'Mahony to help guide us through that process, make sure that we get it done right. And then we'll bring it back up to council so that council can first act as the local planning agency and then act as the town council in making any changes that we may want to make to that parcel.
Very good. Thank you, Dan. Do we expect to be able to bring that item to our agenda in September?
I'm not sure yet. Doty's supposed to be providing me with a timeline and I don't have it as of right now.
Okay. Okay, great. And no other questions?
That's all that I see.
Okay, we're going to go to status report. If we could start with Charlie, please, our town attorney.
My report is included in your agenda packet, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Scheck?
Charlie, I just have one question. What was the solicitor license work that you did?
That was the issue where we had a insurance company doing soliciting in the town, and they asked for a permit, and the town said that because of the COVID virus, that permits weren't being issued. And my legal research determined that we did not have the ability to deny that permit.
Thank you.
I think then that led into the discussion about yard sales.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Any other questions, Charlie? No? If we could go to Wes for the police department report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I submitted my report, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'll do a little bit some highlights off of it. The Marine unit worked a total of 25 hours. We were short one weekend due to the hurricane warnings. He issued 9 warnings, he had 9 stops, and he did 3 equipment checks. We also did 7 traffic surveys on Pine Tree and Westlake, and you have the stats on that. And code enforcement had 51 violations. Arrest, we 4 traffic arrests, 2 domestic battery arrest, 1 grand theft arrest, and 1 violation of probation arrest. Now, I do have some good news. The first part of our UCRs have just been approved by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. So I'm going to go over a few things that may be of interest. Aggravated assaults, we're down 100%, which is good. Last time we had 3 aggravated assaults, which would include, firearms, knives, that type of thing. That was the first part of that's what we had last year. So this is the first 6 months of this year. Burglaries are down 50%, which is good. Larcenies are down 14.3%. Motor vehicle thefts are down 100%, which is great. Total on the index is down 34.8%. This is for the first 6 months. So generally our statistics are very low. So this can fluctuate and go up and down in the next 6 months. Hopefully we'll keep it down. Our violent crime is down 66.7%. But we have noticed an increase in domestic violence, which is a violent crime. So there's a possibility that could go up. A lot of this is favorable through the pandemic, but also with the pandemic, you have more neighbor issue problems, domestic violent problems. But overall, this is very good stats. In the 19 years that I've been here, this is probably one of the best percentages so far for us. If you have any questions, feel free.
I appreciate that. Wes. I guess we need to tell all the residents out there that you really don't have a lot of discretion when you get a domestic battery call. I mean, maybe you can explain that to people so that they can understand that they're going to be spending the night in the county jail, and it's not a great place to spend right now.
On domestic violence, these are situations that mostly occur in the resident. And by state law, we either arrest both or arrest one or the other. So
they must stay in jail overnight.
Right.
And most of the
incarcerated for
out the next day, but still not a fun process. Are your officers being safe going to the jail and arresting people?
Yes, there's procedures that are set up. I will tell you that on the traffic enforcement has been down, but we've restricted our contacts because of the pandemic. Also, a lot of people don't know this, but there's no traffic court at this time. The county is working on setting up where we can have traffic court. So the court system is, all of you know that our lawyers has pretty much been shut down, except for violent crimes where people are arrested and they have to have their first appearance.
Okay, thank you. Well, the state of Texas had its first new criminal trial this week. I don't know if there's any due process in that. I was thinking of that the other day, but that's Texas or Florida, we're different. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Dan Clark, are you ready for your report? Oh, I'm sorry, you have a question, Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, that's great on the statistics. I think that's amazing. With regard to a recent post that was made by the town, there's seems to be a string of car break-ins. Is that where they're forcing their way in, or is that just they're going, checking the door handles, see if they're open or locked?
Palm Springs and the county has had a rash of auto burglaries. We have not had really any. But just outside the city, I think Palm Springs had 30 in one night. Sheriff's Department, they were in the 20s. And that was a combination. That was a combination of the county and this general area, and with Palm Springs approximately 30. So we would recommend people to make sure that they remove their keys, their money, wallets, or don't leave anything in the vehicles, and make sure you lock them.
All right, thank you, Chief.
Any other questions of our police chief? No. Okay, we're going to move on to Dan Clark. I'm sorry, Dan, could you give us your status report?
My status report is in the packet. I have two things I'd like to add. One, it does not appear that there will be any FEMA support for the last hurricane that we had.
Dan, you're muted, I think.
Sorry, thank you.
We can hear you, Dan.
I hear you.
So we've been informed by FEMA that there'll be no support for the last hurricane that we had. The only support that's going to be offered by FEMA is for people that had shelters or worked in the shelters. And the second item is the census. They're going to close the census in September. They're starting their door-to-door campaign for those that have not yet filled out their census information. We are number 2 still in the state, but we're about to be passed by Oviedo. We're at 78.4% responding. Oviedo is at 78.3. They're moving up. We seem to be stagnant. So anything that anybody can do or needs any assistance with anything around the census, please call Town Hall, let us know, and we'll figure out a way to help folks.
Thank you. Any questions from council member Dan Clark?
I do.
We'll recognize Bob Shahu.
Dan, how you feeling?
Good.
I missed you.
Thank you, sir.
Draw your attention to the status report of last council meeting. It says Mr. Clark noted that the Keller gates were damaged and needed to be replaced, and that an insurance claim has been filed against FP&L and Asplunda Tree Service for causing $10,000 in damage. Fire Rescue is requesting that the town have a click to open feature when replacing the gate. Two questions. What's the status on the $10,000 damage, and the status on the click to open?
So we turned the insurance claim over to our insurance company, and I have not talked with them to see where they are on that claim. The devices that we need take a 60-day lead time to get, so we're still waiting for that new equipment to show up.
And the cost?
I don't remember exactly, but it's in the $7,500 range for the devices, and another $1,500 for the knock box and click to open.
Okay. Draw your attention to your status report on the 12-inch water main. We originally thought the project was gonna cost about $525. We will get a new opinion of cost after the parties agree on the alignment. Do we know how much that new opinion is gonna cost us with regard to the 12-inch water main over there on Lawrence Road?
The new opinion of cost will come with the redesign. The design that we had submitted moved the pipe across to the east side of Lawrence Road. And then because we have to go under the canal, did a very long directional bore from the east side back to the west side and significantly south. We were able to eliminate all of that with the cooperation of the county. And so now it's going to be a straight run down the west side, and it's actually going to be over the top of the canal instead of under. So once that design gets complete, they'll modify their opinion of cost to show us the savings. My guess is we're probably looking at $50,000.
Now, also on your status report are garbage carts and cart program rollout. Would you please tell our neighbors what we're thinking about doing in the implementation and the excitement of everybody is going to have the same colored garbage can?
As part of our negotiation with Waste Management for our next contract, we have to go to automated collection. Automated collection means the little truck with the gripper arm is going to drive by your house, pick up your can, dump it in the truck, and keep going. That means all of the cans need to be standard. So as part of our costs, we are going to get new carts. And the recommendation is that we start with 96-gallon carts, try those for 60 days, and then have an adjustment period where if the 96-gallon does not work for the homeowner, we can change that out to a 65 or a 35. So over the course of the next 60 days, this is all supposed to take effect the 1st of October. There will be some education as to what we're doing and why we're doing it. There'll be cart deliveries. And there are two questions popping up right now as we're talking. One is, will there be bulk pickup of old cans? The old cans will not be picked up and will not be allowed to have garbage. They are recommending the old cans be used for vegetation, and they will pick them up for vegetation. And the second question is, what about recycling? There'll be no change to the recycling. The recycling will continue to be as it is. The one other significant issue in the waste management contract is we have currently a clause that says if you are not able, due to medical reasons or age, to move your trash can from the street to from your backyard to the street, that waste management will come and do that for you every week when they pick it up.
But they also have to register that information with the town, correct?
Correct.
And the town is going to be the owner of the can, correct?
The town is going to be the owner of the cans.
And if there's any damage done as a result of this automation, that's going to be on waste management, correct?
Correct. And you will get another question that just popped up. If you need more than one can, you can get more than one can. It will have to be, though, that same standard can that the town issues.
And is there a cost for that, Dan?
There will be a cost for the can. We're anticipating, we have a number of policies that we're going to be asking council to approve. The first can will be free. We're going to recommend to council that the second can costs $60. That's a one-time charge. And there's no additional cost for pickup if you have two cans.
And the cans that we have now that are varying in sizes, we should use those for vegetation? They'll be picked up the same way on Mondays?
They will not be picked up the same way. Those will be picked up by hand as they currently pick up the garbage.
That's what I meant to say.
Yes.
Okay. And just a friendly reminder to all of our neighbors, put your grass clippings and your tree trimmings off of the roadway and on your property. And obviously do not throw your grass clippings in the canal like it was reported this afternoon. The landscaping people were dumping everything in the canal. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it very much.
Any other questions of Dan?
Yes,
Councilmember Freebold?
Mr. Clark, on the size.
Wait, 1 second.
He's self-muted.
You're self-muted.
You just clicked me back. There we go.
Okay, go.
I can't look across the room to you now. Tell us about the cost differences between the size of the cans, if there is an additional can, or will they all be the $60 cost across the board?
I don't know that right now, Councilman Freebold. We don't have the cost information per can basis. I'm still waiting for that information. I actually have a conference call tomorrow morning at 9:30 to talk about carts further. But if they are different costs to us, then certainly we'll pass that on to the residents.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions of Dan Clark? Okay, sounds like we're done with our status report. I just want to go now through council comments, and I could start with Albert. Do you have any questions?
Just want to let Dan know he's doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
Great. Mr. Freebold?
I'll make this short and sweet. I just want to wish everyone out there in Lake Clark Shores well. I hope everybody is secure, healthy, and happy. This will be a difficult budget time, but together we'll get this all worked out. And as you can see from Mr. Pinsky's report, things will continue to progress as time goes on. So stay safe, everyone.
Thank you. Bob Shahu?
Sure. Dan, what's the status of reaching out to the University of Florida concerning the vegetation growth and trying to see if we can bring it under control?
I'm sorry, run that by me one more time.
I think at the last council meeting, there were some issues with all of the vegetation in the lake, and some people and our neighbors were very critical of our action or perceived non-action. And you advised that what you had done was you'd reached out to the University of Florida and were following their protocol based upon the information that they provided to you at that time, which is a few years ago. And I made a suggestion, why don't we reach back out to the University of Florida and see if their protocol has changed. And the minutes say the town will contact them again to see if they can come up with a solution.
So I did not contact them directly. I did look on the website, the IFAS website. There's no change on that website in terms of actions or activities that are recommended. If you would like for me to make a phone call, I'm happy to do that.
When you're not doing anything, Dan, you know.
When is that?
But I think we owe it to our neighbors to reach out to them. And I think you do not necessarily need to make that phone call, but you know, we've got a great team over here. And if I can do anything to help, let me know, Dan. I'll be more than happy to make a phone call.
Thank you.
Following that up, the issues concerning the census, maybe we can reach out, since we have so many members of the residents of Lake Clark Shores and the Lake Clark Shores Yacht Club. Maybe we could reach out to them on social media to say, hey, look, do you know of a neighbor that can help, that needs help in filling out their census? Other than that, that's about it. Again, thank you all very, very much. Appreciate the phone calls about the devastation over in Lebanon. Thank goodness our family has not been affected by it, but over 300,000 have been displaced and homeless. So it's a very, very tragic time over there. So thank you all very, very much. And Charlie, thanks a lot for the with us on the collective bargaining. And I know you and Paul will get together and you'll iron. Chief, thanks a lot for everything. Dan, you did a great job. And don't forget to vote.
Oh, yeah, Tuesday. Vice Mayor Shalhoub.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Want to wish a very happy birthday to Mr. Bill Murphy, longtime resident, an integral part of our town. He does so much around here. Thank you very much, Bill, for all that you do and continue to do for our town. Hope you have a wonderful birthday today and a great birthday week. That's all I have to say. Thank you all for joining us. Look forward to seeing you here next month.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I want to thank all the council members who were able to be here in the actual building. I appreciate you making that effort. During COVID, it's hard to do a lot of things, but I think we're holding it together. The town's doing very well. Dan, you're working really hard with the staff to keep everything going. I want to remind everybody, please, this is really important for us. People need to wear them. They need to think about why we wear them. They need to think about the people who are dying, how vulnerable we all are. Palm Beach County provided this, and I think a blue one, which is being worn right now, and a red one. They sent red ones as well. Everybody in the county, I mean, really nice. They're important. So if I could emphasize that to anybody, to everybody, that's what's really important. They're not easy to talk with. We do have an important primary, and hopefully most of you have voted already, but if not, Tuesday, our town will be the only precinct in Lake Clark Shores. So hopefully we'll have some candidates here and we'll have some signs. The other issue is we have 2 council meetings, everybody, in September, the 8th and the 22nd. It's going to be a busy month. And the one on the 8th is right after Labor Day. They're also both budget meetings and CRA meetings, and we're probably going to have a lot of other issues come up. So we really appreciate anybody talking to Dan and everybody else before you come, so we don't, so we kind of get answers before we can. I want to also encourage Dan, if you could. A resident asked me whether the agenda for our town council meeting is sent out an email blast. Is that, we do that?
Maybe we'll look into it. Just the agenda, I'm sure we can do that. Absolutely. Any of the supporting documents will probably make that email blast too large to send out.
Well, also, I think it would be nice now that we're not sort of virtual and a lot more people are willing to participate this way.
Yeah. Okay.
How many people do you think we have on our list?
About 400 names the last time I talked to Elliot.
Okay. Be nice if we could build that up to 1,000 so we could get people information via email. Other than that, I wanted to thank Wes for all the hard work they've been doing. We had a first in the history of Lake Clark Shores, you probably don't know, last Saturday, the day of the hurricane, we had 2 emergency orders in effect at the same time. Never been done before. Hope to God it never happens again. I mean, we're in our 19th emergency order, 144 days of COVID. I'll never forget the council meeting in March where we just started talking about it, and the topic was, are we having our barbecue? And now, that's not even a discussion. The discussion is how will we all survive this? And what can we do as a town to help everybody out? Things have changed a lot since March. I thank you for allowing me to be your mayor. I appreciate all the council members who are reaching out to residents because I'm not able to do it all myself. Let's just keep together on this. This is going to be a year we'll never forget. So with that being said,
let it be written, let it be done.
Let it be written, let it be done. Second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Freeball. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
That was the famous words of Rand.
Yeah.